This meeting is being recorded.
Shalom, everybody. Welcome to Moving on Faith, and I am Vanessa Malave. So today I have a special treat for you. I have two guests here today, some family members of mine out over there in Atlanta, Georgia. And today we're going to be talking about the relationship between agriculture and the Bible and what that means and all of the amazing things that come with that. So I'm really excited, and I know you will be too. The information you're going to get today is one of a kind, and I guarantee that you haven't heard this from anywhere else or anyone else. So without further ado, let's introduce my guest today. So first, I want to introduce my brother in the truth, who I've known him for about going on 6 years now. Arakyahu, welcome.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Baby.
And my sister Kim, shalom, sis.
Shalom.
Welcome. So, okay, guys, so just to kind of let the viewers know a little bit about your background, like yourself, and a little bit about how you came into the truth, and then we can kind of take it from there.
Okay. All right. So as far as the truth, I've been in the truth for about 6 years, about 6.5 years now. And
I've been in the truth for about 4. And I think, 4 years, agriculture-wise, 4 years. So I think that all started together for me.
agricultural too. Okay. Yeah, agriculture has about 4 years, like for real agricultural, but I had, all together, I probably got like 10 years of wanting to do it and actually dibble-dabbling in the backyard, turning into working on an actual commercial farm, and now we're working on the urban farm.
Well, tell us a little bit about your experience working on your first farm, because I remember when you had first gone to Atlanta and you first went to the farm. I know we didn't see you for like a good year and some change, but I do remember the first time you came back. My husband and I, we definitely saw a huge change in you, and it was extremely interesting to kind of watch you evolve into this person who is so intertwined with agriculture, especially as it pertains to the Bible. So tell us a little bit about your experience there.
So that was a commercial farm, but the benefit of the commercial farm was that it was Hebrew owned through and through. Everybody that either worked there or in even certain affiliations to the farm were all Hebrew based. For those that were like in it, it was mainly of a place of growing. It was a community, and it was centered upon growing men to be men in a world where most men are extremely effeminate. It's bringing out the masculinity of men in a Torah-based way. And husbandry, which is farming. But so that was a benefit, and that's why there was such a different growth for me. But then also being in that situation and being in a farm that was we had very few people working the farm and a lot of land to work. So a lot of times I found myself alone, which really helped me to just face my own issues and be in my mind a lot. But it was very beneficial in that way. I'll never forget it. In fact, most of the tenets I've learned from being there are the core of my belief systems. It's the core of what I teach when I deal with other people. Even to this day, when I have like volunteers and stuff come to my farm I work at now, they hear it. So it was a very influential time in my life.
Can you share with us one or two nuggets of just wisdom that you or knowledge that you gained from there? You said that it really did help to shape you as a husband, as a father in Torah, being there. So can you share with us just maybe like one or two things or examples that our viewers can kind of glean from and and perhaps even see how it applies to them in their life?
Okay. I remember in the first year I was there, it was probably in the first couple of months of me being there. The elder had me record him doing a class, like a quick like Facebook Live or something like that, or Instagram. A quick class type of situation about pruning. And I felt it very odd that he asked me to do it when his son was like the multimedia dude, like social media, all that was his son. So to have me up in there doing that, John, was crazy. I was like, huh? But I was going through a situation with a relationship that I was dealing with at the time. And he wound up using the class about pruning to show me the benefits of understanding and identifying things in my life that need to be taken away. You know, a lot of times we hold on to stuff and it's not beneficial. You know, a plant is going to grow as much as it can. It's going to just go as far as it can go. And it's up to us, as the Most High told to Adam, to tend to the garden. So we have to go out there and identify parts of, in this case, was tomato plants, and understanding what was a sucker and what was a main runner, or like a main stalk of the plant. And the suckers, you had to take them off. And he was just relating that with people or even things or whatever the case may be in our lives that we need to understand and get rid of it, because the more of these suckers we have, the less production we'll have. And just like a plant, the more suckers and non-pruning that you do with a plant, the more it'll have foliage, you'll have great girth in its leaf, not leaves, but like it's a bush, whatever the case may be, or even a vine. It'll have a lot of like body to it, but the fruit won't produce as plentiful or as good as if you prune it back to focus the energy of the plant.
Doing healthy growth.
Yeah.
Right.
It's all about shaping your life to be healthy. Again, to focus the energy of your life into producing good fruit and plentiful fruit. So that's the whole thing, you know, it said be fruitful and multiply.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was one big thing.
That was a big thing.
Yeah, I've never forget it. And then the other one was we had like a men's conference that we would do every year, and it was called Abba and Sons, and it was cool, man, because I think that out of all the people that were there, maybe about 12 of us were farmers, and probably less than that.
Yeah.
About 8 to 10 of us were farmers, and of that 8 to 10, like 6 of us were actually the ones from that actual farm. So the elder went up there, same elder. He went up there and he was like, and if he sees this, I pray that I get the story correct. But he said how many, he went up there and said, how many of you love the Bible? And everybody put their hands up. And then he said, okay, cool, everybody put your hands down. He said, besides my guys, how many of you are farmers? And, you know, I wasn't paying attention, so I put my hand up anyway. And he talking about something besides my guys. I was like, oh, snap. Yeah, I put my hand back down. I felt like a dummy, man. I was like, yo. And now, mind you, this is brothers from like all over the country that came out to dwell with us. And I'm like, I'm making my elder like a fool. So I'm like, dang, I felt terrible about it. And then he was like, how many of you are farmers? And there was like maybe like 2 or 3 people that raised their hands. So he's like, all right, put your hands down. He said, how many of y'all know that like 80% or something like that of this book is based off of agricultural ideology? And like no one really raised their hand. He was like, well, how can you say you love this book and you want to follow this book if you can't understand 80% of it at least? And that really, and I didn't notice that until maybe like last summer. It like that what he was saying really kicked in. And that's when I started working at the urban farm. It really kicked in that the ground and the book are interchange, or they're connected, it's synergistic. And to understand one is to understand the other, and vice versa. So those are the 2 biggest things that really got me. And of course, I'm a farmer, so that really want to stick to me because of my normal
Mhm.
you know, daily what I do. I got a farm here, I got a farm that I work at. So it's what I do on a daily basis.
Wow, yeah, that and we've had this conversation before so many times about how, and when you brought this to us and you told us, like, to really understand the word, you do have to know about agriculture. I believe someone said before, and I'm gonna get this word wrong because I'm not gonna say it right, but that the Hebrews, the Israelites, they were an agrarian. Is that correct? An agrarian culture?
Agrarian.
Agrarian. There you go.
Yeah.
An
Damn, that's better than
agrarian
most people
culture.
get.
What's that?
Hallelujah. I said you did better than most people say it. So hallelujah.
I tried. Now I'm gonna find a snow. But yeah, so agrarian culture, and a lot of people don't know that. And I always thought this was really interesting. Like, there's this idea. This is left. I'm going left with it real quick. But there's this idea, everyone out, like, especially in the Christian community, it's like widely accepted that, like, Hamashiach was a carpenter, right? But
Okay.
that's actually false. It's not true. He was a farmer like his father, right? Because Yah, he was all about, the earth and the land. I mean, he made Adam from the ground. What do you think about that?
So I look at it the same way I look at my own personal life. I like to say I'm a man of many hats, but I have a main vein that I operate in, and that is agriculture.
Yes.
We are agricultural people from the very beginning. In fact, every nation, pretty much, period, was an agricultural nation. Agriculture was a staple. Even to this day, if you think about it, they have control over it, and it's very mechanized and everything. But if the agriculture were to shift, everything would shift in a negative way, more than likely. But yeah, we are an agrarian people, and that was the main thing. If you couldn't feed your family, you're not really doing anything. Now, you would also have people who would have their gardens. A lot of people would have gardens and little farms to sustain themselves or their communities. And you would have people to work those farms, but then you would still have people like myself who dabble in carpentry. Also I do a little bit of like herbal medicine, stuff like that. So we would have specialities for every household, but every household still were agrarian because you had to eat.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's how I look at things. And I'm not no scholar, but just judging on how life would have to be, when I think about the scriptures, I don't like to just go by what I see. I try to be there. I try to understand. When you look at like with Jacob and Esau, like when they were going about the soup situation, you read that story and be like, man, that soup must have been good. And we know it was good, but we also know that because they're an agrarian people, it probably took boy all day long to make that soup. So it was a big deal for him, just as much as a big deal for boy to come back and eat it. So, just like I like to think about the culture of the people, and they would have to have had, everyone had to have some type of agricultural base in their families, in their households. But they'll also have specialities that they would do for extra earned income or something like that. Whether the women would do clothing or women would do spices and herbs, and the men would be out working or doing whatever the case may be. But someone was always coming back and doing work in the field to feed the family.
Right. Let me ask you this. Last summer when you guys came out here, we talked a little bit about how that we are electric. You guys were introducing us to this information that our bodies are electric. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that connects us as the creation to the creator?
Okay. So honestly, what got me started was when I was reading in Exodus, and it spoke about Exodus with Moshe and the burning bush. Yeah. It was reading Exodus, and we were looking at Moshe, dealing with the burning bush, and and he had to take his shoes off. And it always perplexed me why he had to take his shoes off because, for one, again, I've been doing agriculture for a while and I've wore sandals. Like I'm from up north and slides is the thing. So I'll be out here cutting wood,
Yeah.
running, plant seeds and the seeders and all these things. I've been doing all kinds of stuff in my slides. You know what I'm saying? If it's wet outside, I take my socks off and I'm out here.
You love grounding.
Yeah, grounding is a thing.
Yeah.
So I know that when you wear, like people will sit there and say, oh, he had to take his shoes off because it was dirty. Like, he couldn't walk on set apart ground with his dirty shoes on. But I'm like, all right, well, that's what's up. I get all that. But his feet was dirty too because they wore sandals.
Right.
And when you wear sandals, especially when they're mostly enclosed, even if they're not mostly enclosed, but the dirt get caught up in there and your feet is, in most cases, look dirtier than the shoe look.
Yeah,
When
that's
people
a
got
fact.
the little sandals, got the little foot marks
Yeah.
on the bottom of
That's
where
a
they
fact.
foot go at.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like, like they feet dirty. So it couldn't have been that it was just dirt. And that got me on the process trying to figure out what was the real deal behind it. And then that led me to trying to figure out what was going on with the mixed wool and linen thing. And
Mixed fabrics, period.
came, and I'm a bit of a nerd. So all these things start correlating. And it's funny because I remember I had an elder that told me I had a lot of useless information in my head. And I would like look at things that were just useless. And I was like, dang, you're right. But when I started looking into this particular thing, I'm a nerd when it comes to like mobile technology, communication, and stuff like that. So when I started looking into the whole energy thing with I skipped ahead, didn't I? Okay, so the fabrics, mixed fabrics.
Oh.
So I started looking at the whole mixed fabric thing too. And because I know they wore leather shoes, and I know that linen was a thing that the priests would wear, but they also wore wool because it was a very it was thermal, kept them warm. Also, wool is like antimicrobial, so it keeps it bacterially clean. But mixed together, what was going on with that? So I actually studied I forget what the laboratory was, but they basically studying the fabrics and different frequencies that fabrics have. And when I started looking at the fabric frequencies, I started to see that different fabrics hold different types of frequencies. And then they're saying how wool and linen vibrate at a 5,000. I'm not sure if it's megahertz or hertz, whatever. It was one of them H Z things. But they said it has a 5,000, which will raise up your body's frequency, which is normally around like 100 something, whatever. But when you mix them together, because they have alternating currents, like they oppose each other in the direction of their currents, they cancel out and it drops down to zero. And if you're would wear something like that, it actually brings down your body's frequency down to zero. And then I started looking into like hospitals and stuff like that.
Let me ask you a question, because you're really knowledgeable about this, but like I'm not, and like I'm sure the audience is. And so what should us as human beings, like what should our frequency level be at? And why is it like how does that even like correlate to the dropping and the raising of the levels with the fabric?
So
Especially when you're sick.
yeah, to be the easiest way to say it is as high as possible. And I know that sounds crazy, but right now I don't know enough to understand the frequency of the divine, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you look in scripture, you see like there was lights and sounds. When it came to the Father, there was thunder, sounds of thundering and all these things.
Right.
They're all frequencies. Light is a frequency, sound is a frequency. Everything we see, everything we hear, even things we touch, when you understand how your body works, it's all based on electrical currents and frequencies.
Yes.
So when I was looking into these things, I see, okay, well, certain things bring down your frequency. Polyester, rayon, nylon, all the synthetic fabrics bring down. Silk and leather also brings down your frequency. They vibrate at like a 15 hertz or something like that, which is the same amount that like a sickly body would vibrate at.
Okay. So the lower our frequency as humans, the lower our frequency is, the more sicklier or the more weak we are.
King, basically the lower the frequency, the closer to death.
Wow. Okay.
So the higher frequency is you're closer to life. And that goes into like, so this is where my nerdiness comes into play, all right? So I study the word chai. Now, when I study Hebrew words, I don't like to study them just for their basic meaning, because everybody knows chai means life. But then when you look at other cultures now, you start seeing that the word chai is used in other cultures, but it's denouncing an inner energy. You hear it say, they call it chi, they call it ki. If you watch anime, they use ki a lot. But in like a lot of Eastern cultures, they call it chi or ki. And it's this internal energy that you have, and you can manipulate it. And some people believe that you can manipulate it in such a way where it affects external physical things. I ain't there yet. But when you look at the word chai,
that, you know what, that actually, sorry to interrupt you, that makes me think of, like, you know, when Hamashiach is like, well, if you have enough faith, if you had the faith of the level of a mustard seed, you can move mountains, right? Like, just imagine like moving, like you said, like your frequency levels are so high, you're so in tune with the creator that you can move things, you can, you know, have that type of effect on your surroundings and your environment. Like, these things wouldn't be mentioned or said if they weren't possible. We just don't know that they're possible because we've not attained that level.
Okay. You know, one thing we have to understand is that most, if not everything that's found on earth comes from one source. The difference is that some people have taken these things and tried to make it their own, which then turns into a wicked thing instead of gratifying the creator. So like when people talk about vibes and frequencies, there's a truth to these things. It's that we have to understand what the foundation of it all is. And like for me, like I used to be like, oh, here people go. They talk about frequency and vibes and this, that, and third. I'm like, here we go. But it wasn't until I started to really understand through scripture that same concept. I'm like, oh, okay, well, there's something to this. You know what I'm saying? So, but even with that whole thing that Mashiach said, like, when you look at ancient Egypt, there's a lot of people that say that they were able to understand, harness sound frequencies to move these giant monolithic stones. Whether that's true or not, there's still a great debate on how they built what they did. Some people say it was aliens, and people say there was giants. Whatever the case may be, it don't matter. The fact is, they had these perfect structures that lasted for eons, for millennia. And the quarry that they would get these stones from were miles away, and they didn't have no trucks to be carrying this stuff. And you know, and then we look at the whole like mathematical equation of the people. They didn't have enough slaves to do this, so they're trying to understand, and we all know that Egyptians were very high when it comes to science and stuff like that. They were very intelligent, and the fact that even in that time period, most people had a more pure air to drink. They had to breathe, excuse me, to more pure water to drink, foods and all these things were untouched, more pure. So you already had a certain height frequency that you're operating on, and the clothes they wore were aiding to that. So they already were operating at a higher level than we do now. So to think of them using this ability to, you know, maneuver these giant stones and build these giant temples and pyramids and all these things, I find that there could be a lot of credence in that thought process.
Wow, that is really interesting. I've never even never heard of that theory or even thought of that theory, but yeah, that could certainly be what happened. That's incredible. Wow. So let me ask you this. So what could someone do if they wanted to work on, you know, raising their frequency levels? What are some tips that you can give people?
Okay. My first tip would be they got to figure out the whys. Like, what are they doing this for? You know, because if you don't have a why, then you wind up getting to a place, and then that getting to that place can cause you to deviate. I've seen it a lot, especially in the Hebrew community, especially when you have like what people call individualites. There's a lot of people that they just read stuff on their own, and they they do stuff on their own. They don't have a real foundation, and they wind up going off. And I've seen it a lot, especially with women. It's been a huge thing where a lot of women will start in the Hebrew community, and because they start understanding certain things, now they're out here doing witchcraft and stuff like that, and they're thinking it's okay. So I actually deal with somebody like that, and thank the Father that situation came to a close. But
Yeah.
you know, it's a very big thing. So like I said, the first thing you got to do is figure out the whys. And then when you figure out the whys, you have to connect that to the Creator. You know what I'm saying? So like for me, my thing was health. And it wound up changing as I started the process. Thought was how I got children, you know, so I need to make sure that I'm able to have them start off at the right foot, have their vibrations come out high when they get to my age, that they are just out here in a way that I could never even imagine. And it starts with me. So I had to figure out that was my why. But as it got further in, I started understanding what Chai meant, and then that changed it completely.
So like, with me, I know even last year when we really started getting into the fabric frequencies as far as cotton, linen, and wool, we did a fruit diet, a fruit juice diet too, just so we can cleanse our body completely. And we ended up throwing a lot of clothes away. That was just like, we want to, as far as our kids, we only buy cotton, linen, and wool to keep them healthy. And yeah, like I said, we had to get rid of a lot of clothes. And I was crocheting already, so I was making a lot of wool, and I just found some cotton yarn. So yeah. So now I'm ready for the, oh yeah, this is our wool yarn that we have. This is, in, what is it? You said the wool was 5,000? Yeah, and I think it's also with the different colors, correct? Like if it's a lighter color.
Yeah, lighter colors, the frequency is better than darker colors.
Mm-hmm. And even as far as like even hospitals, there was a time where hospitals, their sheets were cotton or linen because of the healing. What's the word? Effect? No. The reasoning. I can't think of the word. Benefits.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, all those words work. Yes. So yeah, a lot of hospitals, because they knew that it had healing properties. That's the word that I was looking for.
I was thinking you said it.
A lot of hospitals would use linen garments, linen sheets, because, and even like with flowers, bringing flowers, these things are all things that have been proven to raise the energy that it's around. So it would induce healing. So the way it works is, at a homeostasis, if I'm not mistaken, your body is usually around like 100 something hertz. A healthier body will be higher than that, and a sickly body obviously be lower than that. So when you would wear something like linen, it raises up your body. So they say like 75% of your body, I think it's more close to like 80-something%, is water. And understand that water carries it carries energy. It carries memories of energies, whether it be positive or negative. And the frequencies will cause it to resonate at a certain vibration. And that vibration is going to cause either a healing vibration that contains a structure that will build, or it's going to have a chaotic frequency. If it's a low frequency or something like that, it will be a chaotic frequency, which will cause things to break down. The cells themselves, which are full of water, will start to break down. And that's what causes sicknesses. When you have a breakdown of cells in different parts of your body, cancers and disease, all these things come from the degradation of cells and stuff like that, and the introduction of toxins. And if your body's not operating correctly in different areas, it's not going to be able to get rid of those toxins, so that can be free to vibrate high. So the whole fabrics is very instrumental in that, because it's going to raise you up, it's going to drop you down.
Right. Well, it's really interesting because we read in the commandments where, Yah is telling us, don't wear fabrics, don't wear diverse fabrics, right? And I remember for a long time, I was always under the impression that it was simply a matter of not mixing, like physical and a spiritual lessons, that Yah doesn't like things that are mixed, right? But your explanation in regards to the frequencies and its properties, how they heal the body and how they keep the body healthy, right? That makes so much more sense because he does everything for a purpose, just like he tells us what to eat and what not to eat, not because he just doesn't like that animal. No, it's because for health purposes, in order for us to thrive. So it makes perfect sense what you're saying about certain fabrics having these healing properties and actually making us as human beings healthier, stronger, and closer to the creator. Like that makes way more sense than simply saying, oh, he just doesn't like things that are mixed. So yeah, that's incredible. And I guarantee you nobody has, like, the people who are watching this have never heard that before, because I know when you brought it to me for the first time, like I was mind blown. That's incredible.
Yeah. I think it's a known thing. I think people just get spooky and they run from it. A lot of us came from Christianity, and Christianity, if it's not specifically orated in scripture, then it's voodoo or some type of witchcraft. And it's just, things couldn't be further from the truth.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We just don't study enough to understand who we are and what we're supposed to be. There's a reason why if there wasn't if the fabric didn't have any credence in anything, why would the Father say that the priest had to wear linen this, linen that, linen that?
Right.
Very specifically. You know what I'm saying? So there's got to be something to it. And, when you look at the entire construction of the tabernacle, everything that was used were like energetic objects. Copper, gold, silver. Those are the most,
right.
Copper, gold, and silver are some of the highest, if not the highest, 3 energy conductive materials on the earth.
Wow.
And that's all that was used in the building of a tabernacle, metal wise. And they use wool and linen and ram's skin, which is closer to like a cashmere and a wool on there. So all these things are like energy ripe material.
Right.
And this is where the Father would lay his would come down and commune, which again goes into the understanding of Chai. Everything we're talking about, it starts and ends with Chai. And we have to understand that to understand everything else after that.
Right.
And people don't understand what Chai means, and that's the problem. No one knows a language. No one knows the vibration of the language. Like, people are so ignorant, and it's hurtful to me. Like, it hurts it not hurts my feelings, but it just makes me just like
frustrated.
How?
Yeah.
As you know, with Achi, your Ish,
Yeah.
He's really big on language. And he and I have conversations about language more often than anything else we talk about. We talk about language all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's important. The language is your communication, it's vibrations. All communication is based off of the vowels. Every sound that you make is based off of wind that comes out like a blast of air, or the ruach, and it vibrates, and the vibration is what your ears channel as communication.
Yeah, and I don't think people even realize that, like, specifically with the Hebrew language, like, you can go to Genesis 1, Genesis chapter 1, like, he spoke everything into existence, which shows you that the Hebrew language has a power, like, it's powerful. And the more we get back to, and I'm saying the more we get back to the language, and I'm slacking, I need to catch up. But
right
the more, where I'm at?
I said, you right where you at. This is where you're supposed to be.
Hallelujah. Thank you for that. But yeah, like, if more people understood the power that comes with the Hebrew language and just how close it brings you in relationship to Yah. Like I think more people would, or rather consider, at least consider learning the language. And I'll do a quick little tag in here real quick while we're in here. If anyone is interested in learning biblical Hebrew, you can check out Kaya Shua Ministries. Moray Jediah has a Hebrew Academy. My family right here are members of that academy, as well as my husband, and it's all positive things, that's happening there. So if you are interested, you can go to that website or his YouTube channel and get more information about that, because there's power in the words, there's power in the language. Let me ask you a question, Kim. As a woman in Torah, are there any lessons or any like nuggets that you have learned in your journey with agriculture and with the fabrics and just with all of that, and how it has affected your walk as a woman in Torah?
Okay, and I'm sure everyone who knows this knows I met him at the farm that he was speaking about. So
farm love.
Yeah. Like that's where we met, and that's when he also brought me to the truth, and he was dropping nuggets and be like, see, you don't even know who you really are, queen, and all of that. And I was like, okay. I was like,
she was black.
Yeah, he was like, so what are you? And I'm like, I'm black. He was like, okay, you don't even know who you really are. And I was like, okay. So and to tie that with agriculture, like he was saying, when he's working, he's doing his husbandry, and he's like, and when you're out here with me, you're learning how to bring back your feminine energy that you really need. So we're in and we work. we do it. We gain knowledge together, and he has taught me the majority of everything as far as agriculture and as far as being an Israelite woman.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's taught me everything. He's opened my eyes. We do research together. So yeah.
That's a blessing. That's a blessing. It's really interesting that my husband and I, we were talking about this the other night at dinner. Like, right, so in the garden, right, Adam's job was to tend the garden, to take care of it, and Hawa, or Eve, her job was to help him, right? But in order for her to help him, she had to have a knowledge of what he had a knowledge of. So he couldn't just be taking care of everything and she's just like watching in the back with a shovel. Like, she had to have the same knowledge, because if he didn't tend to that and he said, listen, I need you to tend to the herbs, right? She had to know how to do that. So even you saying that, like, right, and even you saying like you were right by his side and learning with him, that is in perfect alignment with what Yah has created for you as a woman, and with your Ish, like, you are walking aside, like, next to him and learning everything that he's learning, and he's teaching you, and that's just a beautiful thing, because that is exactly how we're supposed to be functioning. So that's beautiful. Let me ask you this, guys. So as a couple, and you guys have children, what do you have any nuggets or anything to share with our audience about how agriculture has taught you about dealing with your children, or anything that kind of ties and connects into that area?
Okay. To be honest with you, the way I look at things as regards to the children is solely based on, and I could be wrong with this, but it's solely based on how you deal with the woman. Because the man has a lot of, effect on what the children wind up being, but a lot of that comes by way of his woman. It's like when you're gardening, it's the man's job to put in the seed. It's a man's job to make sure he has good seed to put in there. It's a man's job to make sure that the soil is good, that the soil has nutrients, and if any weeds grow, the man has to constantly come out there and pull the weeds out to make sure there's nothing competing for against the seeds that he put in that's supposed to give a specific fruit. And as long as the man cultivates correctly his garden, the bed will produce the best fruit possible. I go back to, again, Hebrew words. The Hebrew word for father is Av, the Aleph and the Beit, the first two letters of the Aleph Beit. And obviously every word has different meanings, and if people subscribe different meaning sets, whatever. But one of the sets that I look at is that the Aleph, standing for the source, it represents the father.
Mhm.
It's the source of all things. It's the beginning of the language. It takes on all the vowel sounds. You can go on for days about the Aleph. Strength, family, all these things, but sources I want to focus on. And then you have the letter Beit, which is the house, the tent, the inside or something like that. So when you put them together, the father, or Av, is the source of the house. And going to what I believe it was Mashiach said, if you bind a strong man, somebody said, when you bind up the strong man, anything come into the house. When that source is messed up, whatever's going to come is going to come in. Thing about that is the mother is the word Am or Ima, and that's the Aleph and the Mem. So we got the Aleph is source, the Mem is manifestation. So now you have the father who's a source of the house, and then you have the mother who's a source manifested.
Mhm.
So whatever seed is sown, the mother is going to manifest those seeds. But it's up to the man to make sure that he cultivates correctly to make sure the seeds have the best chance. And if the soil, if the garden is right, that's it. It's going to produce fruit. So if the garden is right, it will produce fruit. And not only will the fruit be produced, but it will be nourished until the point where the fruit can be harvested.
Right. Yeah, you said something. You said the soil has to be cultivated. The soil has to be prepared, and we're talking about soil, and we're talking about fruit and seeds, and we are talking about the family unit. We're talking about the husband and the wife and the children. And like you said, like the same way a farmer has to prepare his soil before he plants seed in order for it to even like grow and be fruitful, right, is the same way a woman's spirit and her soul and her womb has to be prepared spiritually in order to even bring forth good fruit, right? Because not all fruit is good fruit, So we got some bad apples out here, but but yeah, like what's
I'm
that?
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, like if we mirror, and like Shadiq and I were talking about this, but like, yeah, when he, planted Adam, right, out of the soil, the soil represented that womb, and he was able to shape man from the dust of the earth and, blow his spirit into him. But that again just confirms like we kind of mirror that whole scenario. So yeah, just if people understood gardening, I don't, brother, I am I'm a beginner gardener. I tried it a couple times. I love it. Still learning, a lot of, for those of you who don't know, a lot of the gardening stuff that I do know, I actually learned from this brother right here. He helped me with my garden beds and definitely got things started for me, which was able to really help me to even be able to like grow anything. So Toda for that, because I was able to like glean a lot from you and glean a lot from that whole just like gardening experience. And I think anybody who really wants to kind of get a better understanding of the word and connecting to Yah on that level, I mean, start off with a small garden and like, you know, let it grow from there. Like this brother works on a farm, so he has like extensive knowledge. But for those of us who are beginners, starting even with a small garden is like, I think, very beneficial.
Yeah. Well, I'll say, I mean, all you need is a couple 5-gallon buckets, and you can grow unimaginable things. But you got to start from the actual. You know, it's like I had these brothers come to the farm the other day, and this one dude said I was being a bully. I just see me as being a masculine man. I wasn't trying to take no crap from nobody.
Right.
So I had them weeding in the hoop house. We had this giant hoop house is like a greenhouse, but it's like plastic and it's domed over instead of like a square. You can ride a tractor through it. You know, they're cool. So we're in there. I had them weed out the beds we had in there, and I went to the greenhouse and we were preparing trays for making seeds, for planting seeds. And the gentleman, it was like 3 dudes and a lady. It was 4 guys. That's even worse. It was 4 guys and a lady. And when the guys came back, but the lady wasn't back yet. I'm like, where John at? And they're like, well, I don't know. I was like, she's still in John in the hoop house? And they were like, yeah, I guess. And I looked up and she started walking in. So I'm like, y'all done? And they was like, yeah, we done. I was like, y'all sure you done? Because y'all only took about maybe 15 minutes. I've weeded beds before. It takes longer than 15 minutes to do it correct.
Right.
Like, no, we did it. I was like, all right, let me go look. So we go back in the hoop house, and it was terrible. It was horrible. Like, it looked like they barely did anything. And I'm like, y'all kidding me right now? And I looked at the bed that the lady did, and it was like immaculate. I was like, I started feeling a little type of way because I feel like it was better than what I would have did. And I'm like, dang. Like, I was really feeling away. I can hold you. I was like, I'm looking at it like, yes, sis. I'm like giving her praises and all this, that, and third. So I'm like, y'all in here, she did better than y'all. And I'm like, y'all been out here, like, because we had like volunteers that come. And I'm like, these dudes been there constantly. And I'm like, no, y'all got to do this again. Like, this isn't good at all. And I told the girl, I was like, man, in fact, you could be the project manager on this because clearly you know what it's supposed to look like and they don't.
Right.
So we go back inside. I go back inside and go back to what I was doing. So then one by one, like about 10 minutes later, one bowl came. You know, a couple minutes of that, another bowl came. They started trickling back in. I'm like, let me guess, y'all done, huh? They're like, yeah, we done. I was like, are y'all sure? And I did the same joint. And it was like, yeah. I was like, where the girl at? Oh, I think she's still in there. I was like, so y'all done, but you left the lady in there by herself to finish the work? Well, I did my bed. I'm like, what is that, bro? I was like, you talk about black and you want to be a communal black man, but you don't let somebody in there that still got work to do. I said, a real man would have helped everybody else with their work when they was doing his work, make sure everybody get done together. But you in here.
That's right.
Man. I was like, nah, man, no, go back in. I was like, matter of fact, let me go see. So I go in there. And when I go in there, the bed that the lady was doing was someone else's bed. So I'm like, y'all gotta be kidding me. I was like, y'all a bunch of men in here, right? I was like, but you got the girl over here doing y'all work after she already did hers way better than any of y'all could put together. And she's still in here. Y'all left her and she's doing y'all work. I was like, what kind of men are you? And I was like, y'all talk about how you talking to this girl and talking to that girl, but you don't even care about cultivating these beds. I was like, what kind of man can you be when you don't even want to put that time in to cultivate this food bed,
right?
But these beds represent your woman. And if you're not willing to sit there as long as it needs to be to take out all the weeds, because when you become a farmer, you take over a plot of land, you're taking over that plot of land. No matter what's in there, you got to deal with it. And you got to make it produce. So if you're not going to take that over and produce, then you don't need to be dealing with no women. And I told him that. I was like, y'all talk about girls, this, that, and third. I was like, y'all a bunch of effeminate men. Y'all are trash. I literally called them trash. Because I said, you letting a woman do all the work, and then y'all not willing to put the time in to do the work. But you want a woman. I was like, what kind of sense does that make?
Wow.
They're not ready.
I was like, y'all need no women. I was like, y'all need to go back to your dad and then sit before your dad and learn from him. Y'all
Right.
can't do this. Y'all trash. And I call him trash like 5-6 times. I didn't even care. Well, you being a bully. I'll be a bully, but you're not gonna come in and act like this. I got standards.
Somebody got to tell them. Somebody got to tell them.
And that's
You
what
know?
it is. Can't nobody gonna say nothing. But that's the reality of it all, man. We have to really understand this gardening thing, and that needs to be the prefaces of all we do in life, because agriculture is going to teach us these things.
Yes.
Agriculture is going to show you how to be a man, because you got to now take care of something. You need patience. You have to you have to be strong in different weather conditions. You got to have God forbid, you got animals. That means it's going to be predators, and you got to be out there to ward off the predators. And there's so many aspects, with Mashiach and going after that one sheep when we're hurt. Man, I had to do that. We got to, one of our goats, they all broke out the goat pen. And, yeah, man, it was terrible. We had to go get it. And we got all the other ones. We got all except for one. And now all of the men, all of us, the ladies stayed behind to make sure they could get the fence right so that they don't break out again. And all the men took off. This was an urban part of our farm that we had. And we had to go like a mile down the road to get this lamb.
That was a gangster goat. And that's what it was.
Man, he was shaking everybody. He was breaking everybody's ankle. But when we got the goat, I had to carry him on the back of my neck. Almost a mile back to the farm on the side of a busy road. I must have looked like a fool, but
I think we called you at that time, and you told my husband yeah, I'm just carrying the goat.
It might be. It may be. But you see, but everything you see in scripture has real life. Look, man, if that goat is gone, we all left the farm to go get that goat back together, and we got him together. And me being the shepherd, I had to bring him back.
Wow.
We got him back, and we put him in the pen, and he never ran away again. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Everything we need to learn about how to be fathers, how to be men, is cultivated in the garden. And as a woman, it's the same thing. A woman will learn everything she needs to know about femininity, about motherhood, about how she relates to the husband, how her children relate to her husband. All these things are predicated on gardening. And we need to go back to that. The two things that we run away from that was going to save our people is farming and the book. Mm-hmm. And they basically use both of them in slavery to beat us down. So we don't want to deal with it anymore. Wow. So those are the things that are going to get us back right. That's the only two things that are going to get us back right. Because by doing these things, we get to the Father. We get to what's called Chai.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, real life. Functioning the way he created us to function, doing what the jobs he gave us to do. Mm-hmm. That is, I 100% agree with you. Absolutely. We're gonna sell our house and pack up, and we're gonna move down there to Atlanta, and we're gonna join you guys, and let's just get a farm. Let's just get a farm, guys.
Don't tease me now. Look, y'all. Don't tease me now. Hold on.
We were looking at.
I've been trying. I've been working on my ish. Let's get some land. Come on.
But no, that garden in the backyard.
Yeah, my garden needs some work. It needs some work. I was pregnant a couple years in a row, but I'm good now. Yeah. I'm good now. So back at it. But one, it's interesting, and I mentioned this to you last summer. I grew wheat for the first time last summer in my garden bed, and it was an amazing experience because I got to watch it grow. But it for me, I was able to bring to life the scripture. Not that I brought it to life, but I was able to get a better understanding of the parable of the wheat and the tares, because I waited till everything was grown and ready to go, and when it was time for me to reap, mind you, did not have a sickle, okay, so I had to use these gardening scissors, y'all. Your girl was like 7 months pregnant out there sweating, cutting some wheat. But I did it. But anyway,
with some scissors, huh?
With some gardening scissors, man. I'm telling you.
Right. That ain't right.
You know why? Because I was in pain. I'm like, I want to do it now, and I should have ordered my sickle, but of course I didn't. But it was interesting because as I was going through it and like cutting everything down, you could, once I actually did it myself, I was able to see what Hamashiach was talking about. Like the tares looked just like the wheat at a distance. But when you got close and actually started to pull them up or cut them, you could tell which ones were wheat and which ones weren't, because the wheat, oh my God, the wheat was beautiful, right? The wheat was golden. It shined in the sun. It was beautiful, and it was soft, and it had fruit. It was full of fruit. So it was gorgeous. And the tares were not quite golden. They were more like a bluish greenish color. It's weird, bluish greenish color, and they were like very stiff, more stiff, and did not have any fruit, right? So as you're like going through it, you could tell the difference. Like, yeah, these two different things that are entirely different from each other, they grew up side by side, right, next to each other, and one was able to produce fruit while the other is completely useless. Well, I wouldn't say useless because we can always burn it, but it's not going to produce fruit. And that is so, it makes perfect sense with us, with people in their walk, right? You see two people who might have come into Torah at the same time, or what have you, and we've seen it at Yahoo. We've seen it over the years. We've seen people come in and come out, people who start off on fire, who we call family, and then little by little they trickle out. And so you get to see how, even though you could start together, or you could be in the same box together, growing in the same soil, right? One is gonna grow to be a wheat and one is gonna grow to be a tare, and they're getting the same amount of sunlight, they're getting the same soil, the same water, but one is going to have fruit and the other one isn't. So I thought, for me, that taught me so much. It brought that parable to life. But I would have never understood that had I not actually seen the wheat for myself. To go back to your point, gardening or agriculture, and that type of like work helps us to really understand the Bible better and to connect to the Bible better. So yeah, I absolutely 100% agree with you.
And hey, look, everything our ancestors did will circle around it. Abraham reading the stars. Why would he have the understanding of the stars? Okay, we can talk about time, but the luminaries dictate the seasons, which dictate the gardening, which dictate the produce. You know what I'm saying? Everything goes hand in hand. There's nothing, and this is why the Father used agriculture, especially in the when Mashiach was coming around talking to people. Like, dang, everything that came out of his mouth was about agricultural nature.
Right.
It was all relevant to nature, so we just got to get back to that.
Yes.
We can understand the parables, we can understand everything, not sowing mixed seed. I, for one, understand the irritation of growing multiple crops in one bed. They all get harvested at different times. It slows down production. It's like, it's a dummy move to be sowing mixed seeds. So I see why you just shouldn't be sowing mixed seeds. That you can grow more of one thing, and certain plants will obstruct the growth of others, and they suck out nutrients that certain plants need, or they'll block out the sun from what the plant needs. Like, you can't do that. You got companion cropping, and that's a thing, but even still, like, you have beds with onions in the middle of it, and then you got kale on the outside, which a lot of people do, like stuff like that. But then when you got to go harvest the kale, because kale will grow in like 60 days, maybe a little bit more than that, depending on the variety. But onions take like 130 days, something like that, to come to fruition.
You might forget they're there, like I did.
And then you mess around, you want to till the whole bed out so you can replant the bed, and you got to wait for the garlic, or you got to go around the garlic. It's a terrible practice.
Yeah.
That's what the Torah says, you know what I'm saying? So it all makes sense. Everything makes sense. And then when you eat out the ground that you're creating, you have robust produce, you have robust fruit, and it's so dense with nutrients and vitamins and minerals that it I don't know, it don't make sense. You know what I'm saying? You literally heal your body by just turning your grass into a garden. You save water, you save electricity from having to mow lawns all the time. You save all kinds of money.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, that's the boy at the door.
Hey, I'm in the basement. I can't hear mine. I can't hear you.
But yeah, you know, you coming back in?
Yeah, I'll come back in.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No worries.
But yeah, it all goes hand in hand. So that's my biggest thing. Every time people come to my farm, if I get it, if they say one thing that put me on my soapbox, I'm gonna get up there and start teaching about it because it's a passion of mine. And I love to be able to help people to be at that next level spiritually and physically. You know, gardening will help you spiritually. It definitely helps you mentally. If I can count the times where I had to be out in the farm on 40 acres by myself with no music, nobody to talk to, it was just me, the sounds of me cutting through the dirt and my thoughts and having to pan through that. And I've gained a mental fortitude that is a lot, is way less shakable than it used to be.
Wow.
Just being on the farm.
Right.
Even to this day, I don't listen to music too often. If I got headphones in, I'm listening to an audiobook. That's literally all it is. Maybe like a teaching online. But when it comes to like music and all that, I've learned just be in my thoughts.
Right. I was it you who told me that or told us this? I don't know. It might have been you, but when we want to get closer to Yah, we have to put ourselves in the wilderness, so to speak, quote unquote wilderness. Remove ourselves from so much distraction, so much noise, so much all of this stuff that's going on. Like when you see in the scriptures, whenever Hamashiach or any of the prophets, whenever they wanted to hear Yah, they went to the wilderness. You know, they went away from the cities, they went away from the villages or from the towns, they went to remote places where they could just focus on Yah. And that goes to what you were saying, where when you're in that type of environment, you are now put in a situation where it's just you, the ground, and him. You know, you can meditate on his word, you can pray, you can speak to him, whatever it is. It puts you in a perfect environment, in a perfect situation for you to communicate with your Abba.
Yeah, it's getting rid of distractions. When you get rid of distractions, you have to filter through your mind. And when you filter through your mind, you start to really understand what's a thought coming from your heart or what's being downloaded from the divine.
Yes.
And it's very important. A lot of times we fill our lives up with distractions. I mean, I play video games a lot. You know what I'm saying? You know, video games is bittersweet because playing video games kept me out of certain troubles. But you know, it's also a great distraction. You know what I'm saying? Some people they slide into music or you know watch movies, whatever the case. And we all got our different vices, and we literally do that to escape ourselves, to escape our minds, because it's chaos. And our minds are full of chaos because we're not dealing with our thoughts. We're not organizing our thoughts and focusing and being present. We're just too busy moving. Nobody's still. You're out in 40 acres, quiet. You can hear cows that are in like 3 farms away. You'll hear the cows mooing. When it's that kind of quiet,
wow.
All you got is what you got in your head, and that stuff gets real loud. It gets real loud. All right, man, it'd be times where I'll just fall down on the ground like screaming because it was like I couldn't stand it. It was so much. A lot had to be broken just being out there by myself. Even times when my son, like if my son was at the farm with me, I would have to send him off to do something else. Go take care of the animals. And I was like maybe like an 1/8 of a mile away. Go. Do everything I do over here. I need to be here by myself right now.
Wow.
People come, we had like other people that would come to the farm, like other brothers that would drive up to the farm to help. I was like, all right, well, I'm over here. Y'all can go over there. Like, I don't need you to be right here with me right now. I'm going through something. It was very powerful.
It sounds
very powerful.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely. I'm like hearing you, and I can imagine myself in that same situation. On a smaller scale, like I said, backyard garden, but sometimes you're like, yeah, like even with the wheat with the garden scissors, like I was in my zone for like an hour, sweating to death because it was so hot. I'm covered in all type of, stuff from the wheat, which isn't comfortable, mind you, 7 months pregnant. And like, but I was so happy. I was so happy because it was just me, the wheat, and just the sound of like that's it. So I definitely understand what you're saying on a smaller scale, but I definitely understand. Wow, so this was incredible. I'm so thankful that you guys took the time out to have this discussion, and I definitely want to see I want to see what if there are any questions, like if the audience, if anybody does hit me up with any questions, I'll definitely ask you. And who knows, maybe somewhere down the line we'll do a part 2, because I know you guys are always working on stuff, and I do. Maybe we can definitely breach another conversation on, and you can share with us and educate us on the healing properties of vegetation and herbs and those type of things that you guys are working on. So we can do that, or maybe on another time we can set up a time to do that, because I think that would be another great discussion. But this has been incredible. I've gotten so much information, and I'm sure everybody else has. So Toda Rabah.
Oh yeah.
And so Sister Kim, I see you in the background. I see your shadow going back and forth. So there you
got the baby on.
All right, well, thank you guys so much. If anybody wants to contact you, do you have are they able to contact you on Facebook, or like with any questions that they might have, or anything like that you want to kind of plug out there, or if anything, it just come through me?
Either or. I do have an Instagram page, but I'll be honest, I had a brother that came to the farm and was like, man, you got social media, I want to follow you so I can learn more. I was like, well, my Instagram is not that, most people, they want to talk to me, I just want them to come to me face to face. It's a different type of environment. When you're able to be in the presence of different people, you get to you have a better look at their body language.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel their presence, and you can understand where they are better than doing it over like social media.
Yeah.
It's like vain communications.
Yeah.
When you talk, you feel that you can hear the vibrations. You can even sometimes even feel it depending on how close proximity you are. You can, like, I got a booming kind of voice, so things vibrate around me. So I like being in person. I mean, if you you can hit me up on Instagram, or they can go through you, whatever the case may be. But
yeah, if anybody has any questions for the brother and the sister, you can please you can message me, and I will forward the message to them, and we'll make that connection work out somehow. But thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. And as always, sending you guys lots of love, especially to the family, the little ones. And I'm gonna put it out there, but we hope to see y'all in Pesach coming up soon. We hope to see y'all. And all right, thank you guys so much for watching, and please subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video. If you have any questions, you can contact me. And all right, shalom.
Shalom alaikum.